Have you ever felt that life is empty, even when everything seemed perfect? In this audiobook, you'll discover powerful insights on how to find true purpose, overcome emptiness, and create a meaningful life that actually matters, filled with practical lessons, real-life examples, and actionable steps you can start applying today. Introduction. Have you ever had a moment where everything in your life seemed fine, but inside, something felt missing? You're not alone. The introduction of the meaning of your life, finding purpose in an age of emptiness, begins with a powerful observation. We are living in one of the most comfortable times in human history, yet millions of people feel deeply empty, directionless, and disconnected. Think about it. People wake up, scroll through social media, watch endless content, chase small pleasures, and go to bed feeling like nothing truly mattered. Imagine a young professional who has a stable job, a decent income, and a social life, yet every night they feel a strange question lingering in their mind. Is this all there is? Or a student who spends hours watching videos and playing games, feeling entertained in the moment but empty afterward, unsure of what they're actually building in life. The book argues that this emptiness doesn't come from a lack of opportunities, but from a lack of meaning. We have replaced purpose with comfort, depth with distraction, and long-term fulfillment with short-term pleasure. And the dangerous part is that this lifestyle feels normal because everyone around us is doing the same thing. The introduction challenges you to confront an uncomfortable truth. Meaning is not something that will automatically appear in your life. It is not hidden somewhere waiting to be found like a treasure. Instead, it must be created through conscious effort, responsibility, and intentional choices. For example, think of two people working the same job. One sees it as a burden and feels drained every day, while the other sees it as a way to grow, support their family, or build something bigger, and feels a sense of purpose. The external situation is the same, but the meaning they assign to it changes everything. This shows that meaning is not about what you have, but how you choose to live. The introduction also highlights how constant distractions, like scrolling, binge-watching, or chasing quick dopamine hits, are slowly pulling us away from deeper thinking. When was the last time you sat alone without your phone and asked yourself what you truly want from life? If that question feels uncomfortable, that's exactly the point. Growth begins where distraction ends. This part of the book invites you to pause and reflect on your current direction. Are you living intentionally or just reacting to whatever comes your way? Are your daily actions moving you towards something meaningful or just filling time? Imagine your life 5 years from now. If you continue exactly as you are today, would you feel proud or would you feel regret? These are not easy questions, but they are necessary ones. The introduction sets the tone for the entire book by making it clear that if you want a meaningful life, you must be willing to step out of comfort, face uncertainty, and take responsibility for your choices. It reminds you that feeling lost is not a weakness. It is often the first sign that you are ready for something deeper. The real danger is not being lost, but staying distracted long enough to never realize it. Main points and actionable lessons. Emptiness in modern life often comes from lack of meaning, not lack of comfort or success. Constant distractions, social media, entertainment, prevent deep thinking and self-discovery. Meaning is not found automatically. It is created through responsibility and intentional actions. The same situation can feel empty or meaningful depending on your mindset and purpose. Start by asking yourself reflective questions. What am I really working toward? Am I just passing time or building something meaningful? Take small steps, reduce distractions, spend time thinking about your goals, and begin aligning your daily actions with something that truly matters to you. If you feel lost, treat it as a signal to change direction, not something to ignore. The Age of Emptiness. We are living in what the book calls the Age of Emptiness, a time where life has become easier than ever, yet strangely less meaningful than ever before. Think about a typical day in modern life. You wake up and immediately check your phone, scroll through social media, watch short videos, reply to messages, maybe work or study for a few hours, then relax with more content, Netflix, YouTube, gaming, and before you know it, the day is over. It feels busy, even exhausting. But if someone asked you what truly mattered in that day, would you have a clear answer? This is a paradox the book highlights. We are constantly occupied, but rarely fulfilled. Consider a real-life scenario. A college student spends 6 to 7 hours a day consuming content, switching between apps, feeling entertained in the moment. But at the end of the week, they feel anxious and behind in life. or a working professional who spends years chasing promotions and salary increases, only to realize one day that despite achieving everything they thought they wanted, they still feel empty inside. The problem isn't that these activities are inherently bad, but that they often replace deeper, more meaningful pursuits. The Age of Emptiness is driven by a culture that prioritizes comfort, convenience, and instant gratification above all else. Everything is designed to be easy. Food is delivered, entertainment is endless, distractions are always one tap away. While this sounds like progress, it comes with a hidden cost. We are slowly losing our ability to tolerate discomfort, to focus deeply, and to pursue long-term goals. Imagine someone who wants to start a fitness journey or learn a new skill. The moment it becomes difficult or boring, they escape into their phone for quick pleasure. Over time, this pattern trains the brain to avoid effort and seek instant rewards, making it harder to build anything meaningful. The book argues that meaning comes from struggle, responsibility, and growth. But in a world designed for ease, most people unconsciously avoid these things. This creates a cycle where the easier life becomes, the more empty it feels. Another powerful idea in this section is how comparison and validation play a role in this emptiness. Social media constantly shows us highlight reels of other people's lives, success, happiness, luxury, and it quietly makes us feel like we are falling behind. For example, someone scrolling through photos of friends traveling or succeeding might feel inadequate, even if their own life is perfectly stable. This leads to chasing external validation rather than internal fulfillment. You might find yourself doing things not because they matter to you, but because they look good to others. Over time, this disconnect between what you do and what you truly value creates a deep sense of emptiness. The book challenges you to ask, are you living your life or performing it for others? Are your goals truly yours, or are they influenced by what you see online? The Age of Emptiness is not just about external distractions, it's also about internal avoidance. Many people avoid asking hard questions about their life because those questions are uncomfortable. It's easier to stay busy than to sit in silence and confront uncertainty. But that silence is exactly where clarity begins. Imagine taking just 30 minutes without your phone, sitting alone, and asking yourself, what do I actually want from my life? What kind of person do I want to become? For many people, this exercise feels surprisingly difficult, which shows how disconnected we have become from our own thoughts. The book emphasizes that if you don't consciously choose your direction, you will unconsciously drift into a life shaped by habits, distractions, and external influences. Ultimately, this section is a wake-up call. It doesn't ask you to completely reject modern life, but to become aware of how it is shaping you. It invites you to step out of autopilot mode and start making intentional choices. Because the truth is, emptiness is not something that suddenly appears. It is slowly built through small, repeated actions that lack meaning. And in the same way, a meaningful life is also built through small, intentional actions repeated daily. Main points and actionable lessons. Modern life is filled with distractions that keep you busy but not fulfilled. Constant consumption of content replaces creation, growth, and meaningful effort. Comfort and instant gratification weaken your ability to handle challenges and build purpose. Social media creates comparison and pushes you toward external validation instead of internal meaning. Emptiness often comes from living on autopilot instead of making intentional choices. What you can apply in your life. Set specific no-distraction time daily, even 30 minutes, to think, reflect, or work on something meaningful. Replace some consumption, scrolling, watching, with creation, learning, building, improving a skill. Practice doing hard things regularly, even small ones, to rebuild discipline and purpose. Limit social media usage and question whether your goals are truly yours. Reflective questions. At the end of my day, can I clearly say what meaningful progress I made? Am I creating more than I'm consuming? What am I avoiding by staying constantly distracted? If I continue living like this for the next 5 years, will I feel fulfilled or empty? The search for meaning. At some point in life, almost everyone begins to ask a quiet but powerful question. What is the point of all this? This is where the search for meaning begins, not as a philosophical idea, but as a deeply personal experience. The book explains that meaning is not a luxury, it is a psychological necessity. Without it, even the most comfortable life starts to feel empty. Imagine two people living very different lives. One is working long hours building a small business, facing stress, uncertainty, and constant challenges, the other has a relaxed routine, minimal responsibilities, and plenty of free time. Surprisingly, it is often the first person, despite the struggle, who feels more alive and fulfilled, while the second person slowly feels bored, restless, and lost. Why? Because meaning does not come from ease. It comes from having a reason to wake up, a direction to move toward, and a sense that your actions matter. The book makes an important distinction between pleasure and meaning. Pleasure is immediate, easy, and short-lived, like watching videos, eating junk food, or scrolling endlessly. Meaning, on the other hand, is deeper, slower, and often requires effort, like learning a new skill, building something valuable, or helping someone else. For example, imagine spending an entire day watching content online. In the moment, it feels enjoyable and relaxing. But at the end of the day, there's often a subtle dissatisfaction, a feeling that nothing truly meaningful happened. Now compare that to a day where you worked on improving yourself. Maybe you studied something new, exercised, or made progress toward a goal. It might have been harder and less comfortable, but by the end, you feel a sense of progress and fulfillment. This contrast reveals a powerful truth. Pleasure fills time, but meaning gives it value. Another key idea in this section is that meaning is deeply personal, yet it often follows certain patterns. It usually emerges from three main sources: responsibility, growth, and contribution. Responsibility means having something or someone that depends on you, whether it's your family, your work, or even a personal goal. Growth means pushing yourself beyond your current limits, learning, improving, and evolving over time. Contribution means doing something that benefits others, even in small ways. For instance, think of a teacher who dedicates their life to helping students grow. The work may not always be easy or glamorous, but the sense of impact creates a strong feeling of purpose. Or consider someone training for a marathon, waking up early, pushing through discomfort, and slowly improving. The meaning comes not just from the end result, but from the process itself. The book also challenges a common misconception that you must find your purpose before you can live meaningfully. In reality, meaning is often discovered through action, not waiting. Imagine someone sitting at home, constantly thinking, "What is my purpose?" but never trying anything new. Days turn into months, and nothing changes. Now imagine another person who starts experimenting, learning skills, taking on responsibilities, exploring interests. Over time, patterns begin to emerge, and a sense of direction forms naturally. This shows that meaning is not something you discover by thinking alone. It is something you build through engagement with life. The more you act, the clearer your path becomes. This section also invites you to confront an uncomfortable but important truth. If you do not actively search for meaning, you will passively drift into emptiness. Life will still move forward, days will pass, and routines will form. But without intention, those routines may lead nowhere. Think about your current habits. Are they moving you towards something meaningful, or just keeping you occupied? Are you choosing your path, or simply following what is easy and familiar? These questions are not meant to create pressure, but awareness. Because once you become aware, you gain the power to change direction. Ultimately, the search for meaning is about realizing that a meaningful life is not given, it is created. It requires effort, patience, and a willingness to step into discomfort. But the reward is something far greater than temporary happiness. A deep sense that your life matters, that your actions have purpose, and that you are moving towards something worthwhile. Main points and actionable lessons. Meaning is essential for fulfilling life. Without it, even comfort feels empty. Pleasure is short-term and easy, while meaning is long-term and requires effort. Meaning often comes from responsibility, growth, and contribution. You do not find meaning by waiting. You build it through action and experience. Living without intention leads to drifting and emptiness over time. What you can apply in your life. Start taking small responsibilities, even if they feel challenging. Focus on daily growth by learning or improving something consistently. Find simple ways to contribute, such as helping others or creating value. Replace some passive activities with active ones that build your future. Reflective questions. What gives my life a sense of direction right now? Am I choosing comfort or meaning in my daily decisions? What responsibilities can I take on that would make my life feel more purposeful? If I continue my current habits, where will they lead me in the long run? The problem with happiness. At first, it sounds like the perfect life goal. I just want to be happy. But this section of the book challenges that idea in a surprising and uncomfortable way. It argues that chasing happiness directly is one of the main reasons people end up feeling empty, anxious, and dissatisfied. Think about it. How often have you told yourself, I'll be happy when I achieve this, when I get that job, when I earn more money, when things finally go my way? And yet, even after reaching those milestones, the feeling of happiness doesn't last. It fades, and the mind quickly moves to the next target. This is what the book calls a trap of happiness. It always stays just out of reach when you chase it directly. Imagine a real-life scenario. Someone spends years working hard to buy their dream car. The day they finally get it, they feel an intense rush of excitement and joy. For a few weeks, maybe even a few months, they feel proud and happy. But slowly, that feeling becomes normal. The car becomes just another part of their routine, and the same person who once felt thrilled now starts thinking about the next thing they need to feel happy again. This pattern repeats in many areas of life: gadgets, relationships, achievements, status. The book explains that this happens because happiness is not a stable state. It is temporary and reactive. When you make it your primary goal, you end up running in a loop, constantly chasing something that never fully satisfies you. Another example can be seen in daily habits. Imagine someone who spends most of their free time doing things that feel good in the moment, scrolling through social media, watching videos, eating comfort food, avoiding difficult tasks. In the short term, these activities create small bursts of happiness. But over time, they often lead to guilt, lack of progress, and a deeper sense of dissatisfaction. On the other hand, consider someone who chooses a harder path, waking up early, exercising, working on a goal, learning a skill. In the moment, it may not feel happy at all. It might feel uncomfortable, even frustrating. But over weeks and months, this person begins to experience something deeper than happiness, a sense of growth, confidence, and meaning. This contrast reveals a powerful truth that the book emphasizes. Happiness is not something you chase. It is something that emerges when you live a meaningful life. The book also highlights how modern culture has made the problem worse. Everywhere you look, there's a message telling you that you should always be happy. Advertisements, social media, entertainment. This creates unrealistic expectations. When you feel sad, stressed, or uncertain, which are completely normal human emotions, you start thinking something is wrong with you. For example, someone scrolling through social media might see others constantly smiling, traveling, celebrating, and think, why am I not this happy? But what they don't see is a full reality behind those moments. This constant comparison creates pressure to feel happy all the time, which ironically makes genuine happiness even harder to achieve. This section encourages a shift in perspective. Instead of asking, how can I be happy? It suggests asking, what is worth struggling for? Because the quality of your life is not determined by how much pleasure you experience, but by the meaning behind your struggles. Think of a parent raising a child. It is not always easy or happy, but it is deeply meaningful. Or an athlete training for years. It involves pain, discipline, and sacrifice, but it creates a strong sense of purpose. These examples show that a meaningful life includes discomfort, uncertainty, and effort, and yet it often leads to a more lasting form of fulfillment than chasing constant happiness ever could. The deeper message here is that happiness is a byproduct, not a goal. When you focus on building something meaningful, whether it's a skill, a career, relationships, or personal growth, happiness appears naturally along the way. But when you focus only on feeling good, you often end up avoiding the very things that could give your life depth and purpose. This section invites you to reflect on your own choices. Are you making decisions based on what feels good right now, or what will matter in the long run? Are you avoiding challenges because they are uncomfortable, or embracing them because they help you grow? These questions are not easy, but they are essential if you want to move beyond temporary happiness and build a life that truly feels fulfilling. Main points and actionable lessons. Chasing happiness directly often leads to frustration and emptiness because it is temporary. Happiness fades quickly after achievements, creating a cycle of constant chasing. Instant gratification activities provide short-term pleasure but often reduce long-term fulfillment. Meaningful activities are often difficult in the moment but lead to deeper satisfaction over time. Modern culture creates unrealistic expectations of constant happiness, leading to unnecessary pressure. what you can apply in your life. Shift your focus from feeling good to doing what matters. Choose activities that contribute to long-term growth, even if they are uncomfortable. Reduce dependence on instant gratification and build discipline gradually. Accept that negative emotions are a normal part of a meaningful life. Reflective questions. Am I chasing temporary happiness or building something meaningful? What struggles in my life are actually worth it? Do my daily habits lead to long-term fulfillment or short-term pleasure? If I stopped chasing happiness, what would I start focusing on instead? Responsibility and purpose. One of the most powerful and uncomfortable truths this section reveals is that purpose does not come from freedom alone. It comes from responsibility. At first, this sounds counterintuitive. Most people believe that having fewer responsibilities means more happiness and less stress. But the book flips this idea completely. It argues that a life without responsibility often leads to boredom, emptiness, and a lack of direction, while a life filled with meaningful responsibility creates purpose, structure, and a reason to move forward. Think about a simple real-life example. Imagine two individuals. One has no major responsibilities. They wake up whenever they want, spend their time doing whatever feels easy, and avoid anything difficult. The other has responsibilities. They might be supporting a family, building a career, or working toward a long-term goal. While the first person may seem free, they often feel lost and unfulfilled over time. The second person, despite facing stress and pressure, often feels a deeper sense of meaning because their actions matter. Consider the story of someone who becomes responsible for taking care of their family. Before that responsibility, they may have felt aimless, drifting through life without clear direction. But once they know that others depend on them, their mindset changes. They start working harder, managing their time better, and thinking about the future more seriously. The responsibility becomes a source of strength rather than a burden. It gives their life structure and purpose. This is what the book emphasizes. Responsibility forces you to grow. It pushes you to develop discipline, resilience, and focus. Without it, it's easy to fall into patterns of comfort and distraction. For example, think about a student who has no clear goals or responsibilities. They might spend hours on their phone, procrastinate, and feel anxious about their future. Now compare that to a student who takes responsibility for their learning and future. They may still struggle, but their actions are guided by a sense of purpose, which makes their efforts meaningful. Another key idea in this section is that responsibility is not something to be avoided, but something to be chosen. There is a big difference between forced responsibility and chosen responsibility. When you choose responsibility, whether it's improving your health, learning a skill, or helping others, you take ownership of your life. This shift in mindset is crucial. Instead of seeing challenges as problems, you start seeing them as opportunities to grow. For instance, imagine someone deciding to take responsibility for their physical health. They commit to exercising regularly, eating better, and staying consistent. At first, it feels difficult and uncomfortable. But over time, this responsibility builds confidence, discipline, and a sense of achievement. The same principle applies to any area of life, career, relationships, personal growth. The more responsibility you take, the more purpose you create. The book also highlights a common mistake people make, waiting to feel ready before taking responsibility. In reality, readiness often comes after you start, not before. Think of someone who wants to start a business but keeps waiting for the perfect moment, the perfect plan, or the perfect confidence. That moment rarely comes. Meanwhile, another person starts with what they have, learns along the way, and gradually builds something meaningful. This shows that purpose is not built through perfect conditions, but through consistent action and ownership. Responsibility is the starting point of that process. This section invites you to reflect deeply on your own life. What are you responsible for right now? And more importantly, what responsibilities are you avoiding? Are you choosing comfort over growth? Are you waiting for motivation instead of taking action? Imagine your life if you decided to take full responsibility for your future, your habits, your decisions, your direction. It might feel overwhelming at first, but it also gives you something powerful: control. Because once you accept responsibility, you stop blaming circumstances, luck, or other people, and start focusing on what you can actually change. Ultimately, the message is clear and direct. Purpose is not something you discover by accident. It is something you build by taking responsibility. The more responsibility you are willing to carry, the more meaningful your life becomes. It may not always be easy, but it gives your life direction, structure, and a reason to keep moving forward. Main points and actionable lessons. Purpose is created through responsibility, not through comfort or complete freedom. A life without responsibility often leads to emptiness and lack of direction. Responsibility forces growth, discipline, and long-term thinking. Choosing responsibility is more powerful than avoiding it or waiting for the right time. You don't need to feel ready. Taking action builds readiness over time. What you can apply in your life. Take responsibility for one key area of your life, such as health, career, or learning. Start small but stay consistent. Daily actions build long-term purpose. Stop waiting for perfect conditions and begin with what you have. Replace blame with ownership. Focus on what you can control and improve. Reflective questions. What responsibilities am I currently avoiding in my life? If I take full responsibility for my future, what would I do differently starting today? Am I choosing comfort over growth in my daily decisions? What is one responsibility I can take today that will make my life more meaningful? Building a meaningful life. If there is one idea that transforms everything in this book, it is this. A meaningful life is not something you stumble upon. It is something you deliberately build, step by step, choice by choice, day by day. This section makes it clear that meaning is not found in one big moment of clarity or sudden realization about your purpose. Instead, it is created through consistent action, clear direction, and the willingness to grow through discomfort. Think about someone who dreams of becoming successful but spends most of their time waiting for motivation or the right opportunity. Days pass, then months, and nothing changes. Now compare that with someone who starts small, learning a skill, setting goals, improving daily habits. At first, the progress is slow and almost invisible. But over time, those small actions compound into something powerful. This is how a meaningful life is built. Not through dramatic changes, but through consistent effort in the right direction. The book emphasizes the importance of having goals, not just for achievement, but for direction. Without goals, life becomes reactive. You respond to whatever comes your way instead of actively shaping your future. Imagine driving without a destination. You might enjoy the ride for a while, but eventually you will feel lost and frustrated. Goals act as that destination. They don't have to be perfect or permanent, but they give your actions purpose. For example, a student who sets a goal to master a particular subject will approach their studies differently than someone who is just trying to pass time. The same applies to fitness, career, or personal growth. A person training for a marathon wakes up with a clear reason to push through discomfort, while someone without that goal may struggle to stay consistent. The goal itself creates meaning by giving direction to effort. Another important idea in this section is that growth is not optional if you want a meaningful life. It is essential. Growth requires stepping outside your comfort zone, facing challenges, and accepting failure as part of the process. Consider a hypothetical scenario. Someone decides to learn public speaking. At first, they feel nervous, make mistakes, and even embarrass themselves. It would be easy to quit and return to comfort. But if they continue, they slowly improve, gain confidence, and eventually become skilled. The meaning they experience does not come from being perfect, but from the journey of improvement. This principle applies to every area of life. When you avoid challenges, you may feel safe in the short term, but you also limit your growth and potential. When you embrace challenges, you create opportunities for progress and fulfillment. The book also highlights the role of daily habits in building a meaningful life. Meaning is not created in rare, extraordinary moments. It is built through ordinary actions repeated consistently. Think about someone who wants to write a book. If they wait for inspiration, they may never start. But if they commit to writing just a little every day, even when they don't feel like it, they eventually complete something significant. The same applies to any goal. Small, consistent actions are more powerful than occasional bursts of effort. This idea is especially important because it puts control back in your hands. You don't need perfect conditions, unlimited time, or exceptional talent to build meaning. You need consistency and commitment. This section also encourages you to take ownership of your life's direction. It asks a critical question: are you actively building your life, or are you just reacting to it? Many people fall into routines that are shaped by external factors, work schedules, social expectations, or habits formed over time. Without conscious effort, it's easy to live a life that doesn't truly align with your values. For example, someone might spend years in a career they don't enjoy simply because it feels safe or expected. Over time, this misalignment creates frustration and a sense of emptiness. Building a meaningful life requires aligning your actions with what truly matters to you, even if it means making difficult choices. Finally, this section reminds you that meaning is not about perfection. You don't need to have everything figured out. You don't need to know your ultimate purpose right now. What matters is that you are moving in a direction that feels worthwhile, taking responsibility for your actions, and continuously improving. Imagine your life as a structure that you are building. Every decision, every habit, every action is like adding a brick. Over time, those bricks form something solid and meaningful. But if you stop building or place bricks randomly without direction, the structure remains incomplete. The power lies in your daily choices. Main points and actionable lessons. A meaningful life is built through consistent actions, not sudden realizations. Goals provide direction and turn effort into purpose. Growth requires discomfort, challenges, and accepting failure as part of the process. Daily habits are the foundation of long-term meaning and success. You must actively build your life instead of passively reacting to circumstances. What you can apply in your life. Set clear, meaningful goals that give direction to your daily actions. Focus on small, consistent habits rather than waiting for motivation. Embrace challenges as opportunities to grow instead of avoiding them. Regularly evaluate whether your actions align with your values and long-term vision. Reflective questions. What am I currently building with my daily actions? Do my habits support the life I want? Or are they holding me back? What goal can I set today that will give my life more direction? Am I avoiding discomfort or using it as a tool for growth? The role of suffering. One of the most misunderstood truths about a meaningful life is this: suffering is not the enemy, it is often the path. This section challenges the instinctive belief that a good life should be easy, comfortable, and free from pain. Instead, it argues that suffering is not only unavoidable, but necessary for growth, purpose, and deep fulfillment. Think about it in a simple way. Anything valuable in life comes with a cost. Building a strong body requires physical strain. Building a successful career requires effort and setbacks. And building meaningful relationships requires emotional vulnerability and patience. Now imagine a life without any struggle at all. At first, it might sound ideal, but over time, it would feel empty, repetitive, and meaningless. Without challenges, there is nothing to overcome, nothing to learn from, and no sense of progress. This is why the book suggests that the question is not how can I avoid suffering, but what kind of suffering is worth enduring. Consider a real-life example of someone preparing for a competitive exam. They wake up early, study for long hours, deal with frustration, self-doubt, and pressure. There are moments when they feel like giving up. This is suffering, but it is meaningful suffering because it is connected to a goal that matters. Now compare this to someone who avoids all discomfort, procrastinating, distracting themselves, and choosing the easiest path. They may avoid stress in the short term, but over time, they experience a different kind of suffering: regret, lack of progress, and a feeling of being stuck. The book highlights this important distinction. There's always suffering in life, but you get to choose which type you experience. Either the temporary pain of growth or the long-term pain of stagnation. Another powerful example can be seen in physical fitness. Imagine someone who decides to start exercising after years of inactivity. The first few weeks are uncomfortable. Muscles ache, motivation drops, and it feels easy to quit. But if they persist, their body adapts, they become stronger, and the initial suffering transforms into confidence and energy. On the other hand, someone who avoids this discomfort may enjoy temporary ease, but over time may face health issues, low energy, and decreased quality of life. This illustrates a key idea: meaningful suffering leads to growth, while avoided suffering often returns in a more painful form later. The book also explores how suffering shapes character. It builds resilience, patience, and mental strength, qualities that cannot be developed through comfort alone. Think of a person who has faced failure in business or setbacks in life. While painful in the moment, these experiences often teach lessons that success alone cannot provide. They learn how to adapt, how to persevere, and how to handle uncertainty. Over time, this creates a stronger, more capable individual. Without such experiences, it is easy to remain fragile, easily overwhelmed by challenges. This is why many people who have gone through difficult times often say those moments, while painful, were also the most transformative. This section also encourages a shift in how you perceive your own struggles. Instead of seeing them as obstacles, you begin to see them as part of the process of building a meaningful life. For example, if you are working toward a goal and feel frustrated or stuck, that feeling is not a sign that you are on the wrong path. It may be a sign that you are pushing your limits and growing. The key is to connect your suffering to something meaningful. Random, meaningless suffering can feel unbearable, but when it is tied to a purpose, it becomes tolerable and even valuable. This is why people willingly endure hardships for things they care about: family, goals, passions, or personal growth. At the same time, the book does not suggest that all suffering is good or that you should seek pain unnecessarily. Instead, it emphasizes awareness and choice. You have the ability to choose your struggles, to decide what is worth your time, energy, and effort. This requires honest reflection. Are you suffering for something that truly matters to you, or are you stuck in patterns that lead nowhere? Are your daily challenges helping you grow, or are they simply draining you without purpose? These questions are essential because they help you align your effort with meaning. Ultimately, this section delivers a powerful message. A meaningful life is not free from pain, but it is rich with purpose. The goal is not to eliminate suffering, but to transform it into something valuable. When you choose struggles that align with your values and goals, suffering becomes a tool for growth rather than a burden. It becomes part of the story you are building, a necessary ingredient in creating a life that feels worthwhile. Main points and actionable lessons. Suffering is unavoidable, but it can be meaningful when connected to a purpose. That a life without challenges often lead to emptiness and lack of growth. You can choose between the pain of growth and the pain of stagnation. Meaningful suffering builds resilience, discipline, and character. Avoiding discomfort often leads to greater problems in the long run. What you can apply in your life. Identify struggles in your life that are worth enduring because they lead to growth. Stop avoiding discomfort and start embracing challenges that align with your goals. Reframe difficulties as opportunities to learn and improve. Build mental resilience by consistently doing things that push your limits. Reflective questions. What kind of suffering am I choosing in my life right now? Are my struggles connected to something meaningful, or am I avoiding important challenges? What discomfort am I avoiding that could actually help me grow? If I accept suffering as part of growth, how would my approach to challenges change? Discipline and focus. In a world filled with endless distractions, discipline and focus have become rare but incredibly powerful skills. And this section of the book makes it clear that without them, building a meaningful life is almost impossible. Think about how your average day unfolds. Notifications constantly interrupt your attention. Social media pulls you into endless scrolling. And even when you try to concentrate, your mind jumps from one thing to another. Now imagine trying to build something meaningful in this environment. It becomes difficult not because you lack talent or intelligence, but because your attention is constantly being divided. The book argues that discipline is a bridge between intention and action, while focus is a tool that allows you to direct your energy toward what truly matters. Without discipline, your goals remain ideas. Without focus, your efforts become scattered and ineffective. Consider a real-life example of someone preparing for an important exam. They sit down to study, but within minutes, they check their phone, reply to messages, watch a short video, and lose track of time. Hours pass, but very little real progress is made. At the end of the day, they feel frustrated, not because they didn't try, but because their focus was constantly broken. Now compare that to someone who creates a distraction-free environment, sets a clear time block, and commits to deep work. Even if they study for fewer hours, the quality of their focus leads to better understanding and progress. This simple difference shows how discipline and focus can transform the same amount of time into completely different results. The book emphasizes that discipline is not about extreme motivation or sudden bursts of energy. It is about consistency, even when you don't feel like it. For example, imagine someone trying to build a habit of exercising. In the beginning, they might feel motivated and excited, but after a few days, that motivation fades. This is where discipline takes over. The person who continues despite not feeling motivated builds strength, both physically and mentally. Over time, this consistency becomes part of their identity. The same principle applies to any meaningful pursuit: writing, studying, building a career, or learning a skill. Discipline turns actions into habits, and habits shape your life. Focus, on the other hand, is about protecting your attention. In today's world, your attention is constantly being pulled in different directions by external forces designed to keep you engaged. The book highlights that if you don't consciously control your focus, something else will control it for you. Think about a hypothetical scenario where you decide to work on a personal project for 2 hours. If you allow interruptions, checking your phone, switching tasks, responding to every notification, you may spend the entire time busy, but achieve very little. However, if you eliminate distractions and fully commit your attention to one task, those same 2 hours can produce meaningful progress. This is the power of focus effort. Another important idea in this section is that discipline and focus are skills that can be trained, not traits you are born with. Many people believe they lack discipline, but in reality, they have simply not built the habit yet. For instance, someone who struggles to wake up early might think they are not a disciplined person. But with small, consistent changes, setting a fixed sleep schedule, reducing distractions before bed, and committing to a routine, they can gradually build that discipline. The same applies to focus. By practicing single tasking, setting clear priorities, and reducing unnecessary distractions, you can strengthen your ability to concentrate over time. This section also encourages you to examine how you spend your time and attention. Are your daily actions aligned with your goals, or are they being controlled by distractions? Are you choosing what to focus on, or reacting to whatever demands your attention? Imagine your life as a result of how you spend your time each day. If your time is fragmented and unfocused, your results will reflect that. But if your time is structured and intentional, your progress will become visible. The difference is not in the amount of time you have, but in how you use it. Ultimately, discipline and focus are what turn potential into reality. They allow you to move from thinking about what you want to actually building it. They help you stay committed when things become difficult and keep your efforts directed toward what truly matters. In a distracted world, those who develop these skills gain a powerful advantage, not just in achieving success, but in creating a life that feels purposeful and intentional. Main points and actionable lessons. Discipline connects your goals to consistent action, even when motivation fades. Focus allows you to use your time effectively by directing attention toward what matters. Distractions reduce the quality of your work and slow down progress. Discipline and focus are skills that can be developed through practice and consistency. Small, consistent actions are more powerful than occasional bursts of effort. What you can apply in your life. Create distraction-free time blocks for important tasks. Build simple daily habits that move you toward your goals. Limit unnecessary notifications and reduce time spent on low-value activities. Practice focusing on one task at a time instead of multitasking. Reflective questions. How much of my day is spent in focused, meaningful work? What are the biggest distractions that take away my attention? Am I relying on motivation or building discipline through consistency? If I improve my focus and discipline, how would my life change over time? Contribution and service. One of the most powerful and transformative lessons in this book is the idea that a meaningful life is not just about personal success, comfort, or achievements. It is about contribution and service to others. This section reveals that true fulfillment often comes when you shift your focus from yourself to something larger than yourself, whether it's helping a friend, improving your community, or contributing to a cause you care about. Think about it. Many people chase wealth, status, or recognition, hoping it will bring them lasting happiness. Yet time and again, studies and real-life experiences show that people who dedicate themselves to helping others report a deeper sense of purpose and contentment than those who focus solely on personal gain. For example, consider someone volunteering at a local shelter. The physical effort might be tiring, the schedule inconvenient, and the challenges numerous. But the impact they have on lives around them creates a feeling of meaning that material success rarely provides. Service transforms ordinary acts into something extraordinary because it connects you to a greater purpose. Imagine a scenario where an individual spends their life pursuing a high-paying career with little concern for others. They achieve financial success but often feel a vague emptiness, as if something vital is missing. Now consider someone who combines their career with mentoring younger colleagues, helping clients with genuine care, or volunteering on weekends. While their material wealth may not be dramatically different, the sense of fulfillment, pride, and connection they experience is significantly richer. The book emphasizes that contribution is not about grand gestures or fame. It is about consistent acts of giving that align with your values. It could be as simple as supporting a friend through a tough time, sharing knowledge, or helping someone improve their life in small but meaningful ways. Another key insight is that service strengthens relationships and builds community, which are fundamental to human happiness. Humans are inherently social creatures, and we thrive when our actions positively affect others. Think about a hypothetical example of a community project, like organizing a local park cleanup. On one hand, you are improving the environment for everyone. On the other, you are creating connections, learning teamwork, and experiencing the satisfaction of tangible results. The act of contributing becomes rewarding not just for the recipients, but for the person who gives, reinforcing a sense of purpose that transcends individual needs. The book also explores how contribution and service intersect with personal growth. When you dedicate yourself to helping others, you are often challenged to step outside your comfort zone. You may face difficulties, misunderstandings, or even personal sacrifice. Yet these challenges build resilience, empathy, and perspective, qualities that make your own life richer. Consider someone who volunteers to teach underprivileged children. They might face initial frustration as students struggle to learn, but the patience, creativity, and persistence developed through this process create internal growth that is impossible to achieve in isolation. In this sense, service and personal development are deeply intertwined. Importantly, the book encourages reflection on your unique strengths and opportunities for contribution. Service is not about mimicking others or performing acts that feel meaningless. It's about finding ways to contribute that align with your passions, skills, and values. For instance, a skill programmer could volunteer to teach coding to underprivileged youth, while someone who loves writing could contribute by creating content for educational nonprofits. The act of contribution becomes meaningful when it reflects who you are and what you care about. This idea transforms service from a duty into a source of joy, motivation, and long-term purpose. Ultimately, this section teaches a profound truth. The secret to a meaningful life is not in accumulating for oneself, but in giving to others. Contribution and service create a ripple effect, impacting lives beyond your own while simultaneously enriching your own experience. They provide context for struggles, motivation for daily effort, and a deeper sense of connection with the world. By focusing on how you can help, mentor, support, or serve, you create a life that matters, not just for you, but for everyone around you. Main points and actionable lessons. True fulfillment comes from contributing to others and serving a greater purpose. Meaningful service is not about grand gestures, but consistent, value-aligned actions. Contribution strengthens relationships, builds community, and enhances human connection. Service challenges you to grow, building resilience, empathy, and perspective. Align acts of contribution with your skills, passions, and values to maximize impact. What you can apply in your life. Identify one small way to help someone each day, whether a friend, family member, or community. Volunteer your skills in areas that align with your passions and expertise. Use challenges and service as opportunities for personal growth. Reflect on how your contributions impact both others and yourself. Reflective questions. In what ways am I currently contributing to others, and where could I do more? Are my actions aligned with my values and strengths when I serve others? How does helping others make me feel? And what lessons can I take from that? If I focus more on contribution and service, how would my sense of purpose change? Finding your own path. In a world where social pressure, expectations, and comparisons are constant, finding your own path is one of the most courageous and rewarding journeys you can undertake. This section of the book emphasizes that living a meaningful life requires stepping away from the shadows of others' opinions and forging a course that aligns with your values, passions, and strengths. Many people spend their lives following paths dictated by family expectations, societal norms, or the lure of status and approval. While this may provide temporary comfort or validation, it rarely leads to lasting fulfillment. Imagine a young professional who pursues a high-paying job because it's considered prestigious, even though their true passion lies in art. Each day, they earn money but feel an invisible weight on their spirit, a sense that they are living someone else's life. In contrast, a person who decides to follow their artistic calling may face uncertainty, criticism, or financial challenges, but the work feels authentic, invigorating, and deeply satisfying. This is the essence of finding your own path, choosing meaning over comfort, authenticity over approval. The book highlights that finding your path is not about avoiding risk or difficulties. It's about aligning your actions with who you truly are. Think about a hypothetical scenario. Two entrepreneurs start similar businesses. One follows trends, doing what everyone else is doing because it seems safe and popular. The other listens to their intuition, takes calculated risks, and innovates based on their unique perspective. While the first may enjoy short-term success, they are unlikely to experience deep fulfillment. The second, though potentially facing setbacks, is building a life and work that reflect their identity, purpose, and passion. This story illustrates that meaning arises when we honor our individuality, take ownership of our choices, and refuse to be swept along by external expectations. A critical part of this section is self-reflection. The book urges readers to ask themselves, what do I genuinely care about? What am I willing to struggle for? Where do my strengths meet my passions? It's easy to get distracted by what others value or by societal definitions of success. But true fulfillment comes when you pause, reflect, and listen to your own inner voice. Real-life examples abound. Consider someone who left a conventional career in finance to start a small eco-friendly business. Friends and family initially doubted their choice, yet they discovered joy, purpose, and personal growth through work that resonated with their values. The risks were real, but the alignment between passion and action turned challenges into meaningful experiences rather than burdens. Another key insight is that your path is rarely linear. You may need to explore, fail, and adapt along the way. The book encourages embracing this uncertainty rather than fearing it. Imagine a student who changes majors multiple times, discovering different interests and skills with each attempt. Each misstep isn't wasted effort. It's part of the process of uncovering what truly resonates. By experimenting, taking risks, and reflecting on experiences, you gradually build a life that reflects your unique identity. This perspective turns mistakes and setbacks into valuable information rather than signs of failure. Ultimately, finding your own path is about courage, authenticity, and persistence. It's about saying no to what doesn't serve you, even if it's popular, expected, or safe. It's about creating a life that reflects your values, engages your strengths, and fuels your passions. The book reminds us that authenticity is magnetic. People are naturally drawn to those who live their truth. When you walk your own path, your life becomes a model of purpose, inspiration, and fulfillment, not only for yourself but also for those around you who witness your courage to live meaningfully. Main points and actionable lessons. True fulfillment comes from following your unique path, not societal expectations or comparisons. Align your actions with your passions, values, and strengths to create meaningful work and life. Finding your path requires courage, experimentation, and reflection. Risks and setbacks are part of the journey. Mistakes provide valuable learning. Authenticity attracts purpose, growth, and meaningful connections. What you can apply in your life. Identify areas where you are living according to others' expectations and consciously reclaim ownership. Reflect on your passions, values, and strengths and align daily actions with them. Embrace exploration and experimentation to discover what resonates with you. Reframe setbacks as opportunities to learn about yourself and your direction. Reflective questions. Which parts of my life are driven by my own values and which are influenced by others' expectations? What passions or interests am I avoiding out of fear or comfort? How can I take one small step today toward creating a life that reflects my authentic self? If I pursued what truly matters to me, how would my daily actions and mindset change? The modern mindset shift. In today's fast-paced, hyper-connected world, the way we think determines the quality and direction of our lives. And this section of the book highlights a critical insight. Meaningful living requires a modern mindset shift. Traditional approaches, working tirelessly for security, chasing external approval, or defining success solely by wealth and status, often leave people feeling empty, exhausted, and disconnected. The book emphasizes that the modern mindset is about rethinking what truly matters, taking control of your attention, and embracing intentional choices that align with your values and purpose. Imagine a young professional spending years climbing a corporate ladder, chasing promotions, accolades, and recognition, only to realize that the daily grind leaves him emotionally drained and spiritually unfulfilled. In contrast, someone who adopts a modern mindset might prioritize growth, contribution, and personal fulfillment alongside career success. They learn to measure progress not just in monetary terms, but in alignment with their long-term goals, relationships, and sense of purpose. This shift doesn't mean abandoning ambition or responsibility. It means reorienting ambition to serve deeper meaning rather than superficial validation. The book illustrates this shift through practical examples and anecdotes. For instance, consider a person who used to chase social media likes and comparisons with peers. Despite outward appearances of success, they constantly felt anxious and inadequate. By adopting a modern mindset, focusing on self-improvement, meaningful relationships, and real-life achievements, they gradually replaced empty validation with genuine fulfillment. Another scenario could involve an entrepreneur who initially measured success purely in revenue and growth metrics, but realized that building a business that improves lives, supports employees, and serves a purpose brought deeper satisfaction than profit alone. This mindset shift transforms challenges into opportunities, failures into lessons, and routine tasks into meaningful steps toward a larger vision. A major component of this section is learning to question your mental frameworks. Many people operate on autopilot, reacting to societal norms, trends, and external pressures without asking whether those actions align with their values. For example, a student might pursue a degree because it looks good on paper rather than because it excites or challenges them. The modern mindset encourages asking, does this choice reflect my authentic goals? Will this action bring long-term fulfillment or temporary satisfaction? By cultivating this awareness, you begin to make decisions that lead to sustained meaning rather than fleeting gratification. The book also highlights the importance of adaptability. The modern world is unpredictable, and rigid thinking often leads to frustration. Those who adopt a flexible mindset, willing to learn, unlearn, and adapt, navigate life with resilience. Consider someone who loses a job unexpectedly. A traditional mindset might view this as a disaster, while a modern mindset sees it as an opportunity to pivot, explore new skills, and redefine purpose. This perspective reduces fear, increases creativity, and empowers you to take proactive steps rather than react passively to circumstances. Finally, the modern mindset shift is about internal control over external circumstances. The book stresses that you cannot control everything in life, but you can control your mindset, choices, and responses. By focusing on what you can influence, your habits, your attention, and your values, you can create a meaningful and fulfilling life even amid uncertainty. The shift is not easy, as it requires self-reflection, courage, and a willingness to let go of outdated beliefs. But those who make this change experience a life that is richer, more intentional, and aligned with who they truly are. Main points and actionable lessons. Meaningful living requires reorienting priorities toward values, purpose, and contribution. Success is not only external. Fulfillment comes from alignment with authentic goals. Question mental frameworks. Are your actions driven by others' expectations or your own purpose? Flexibility and adaptability are key to navigating uncertainty and transforming challenges into opportunities. Focus on internal control, habits, attention, and choices rather than external circumstances. What you can apply in your life. Reflect on your daily actions and assess whether they align with your core values and long-term purpose. Replace chasing external validation with efforts that bring genuine growth and fulfillment. Embrace challenges as opportunities to learn and adapt rather than as threats. Develop habits and routines that support meaningful goals rather than temporary rewards. Reflective questions. Which areas of my life are still guided by outdated or external expectations? What changes can I make today to align my daily actions with my deeper purpose? How can I reframe current challenges as opportunities for growth and learning? Am I focused on temporary validation? Or am I building long-term meaning in my life? Conclusion. The conclusion of the meaning of your life. Finding purpose in an age of emptiness brings together all the lessons from the book into a powerful reminder. Meaning is not something that happens to you. It is something you actively create. Life may present emptiness, suffering, and confusion, but within these challenges lies the opportunity to craft a life of purpose. The book reinforces that meaning comes from responsibility, contribution, discipline, authenticity, and alignment with one's values. Consider a person at a crossroads in their career or personal life, unsure of which direction to take. The natural temptation is to follow the easy or expected path, avoiding risk and discomfort. Yet the conclusion emphasizes that those who embrace responsibility, face challenges head-on, and intentionally choose their actions create lives that are rich, resilient, and deeply fulfilling. Meaning is not measured by wealth, fame, or comfort. It is measured by the depth of engagement with life, the courage to face suffering, and a commitment to something larger than oneself. The book also revisits real-life examples of individuals who found profound purpose through seemingly ordinary acts. Imagine a teacher in a low-income community who, despite long hours and limited resources, dedicates themselves to nurturing students' potential. The impact of this contribution is immeasurable, not just for the students, but for the teacher's own sense of fulfillment. Or consider someone who starts small acts of service in their local community, helping neighbors, mentoring younger colleagues, or simply listening empathetically. These acts, though modest, build meaning because they reflect intentional choice, personal responsibility, and connection to others. The conclusion drives home that it is not grand gestures alone that define a meaningful life, but consistent, purpose-driven action that aligns with your values. Another key idea is that meaning is found through a balance of focus and reflection. The book emphasizes that living purposefully requires regular self-examination, assessing whether your actions align with your goals, passions, and values. Hypothetically, think of someone who has been pursuing career success at the cost of relationships and personal well-being. Through reflection, they recognize the imbalance and begin making conscious choices to nurture relationships, invest in personal growth, and contribute to others. Over time, these intentional choices transform everyday life into a source of meaning and fulfillment. Finally, the conclusion encourages readers to take ownership of their journey. Life will inevitably include suffering, distraction, and uncertainty, but these challenges are not obstacles. They are opportunities to shape a life that matters. The book invites readers to combine the principles of responsibility, focus, contribution, and authenticity into a coherent approach to living meaningfully. It reminds us that purpose is not a distant goal but a daily practice, shaped by choices, actions, and the courage to live in alignment with one's deepest values. The conclusion leaves us with a clear message. A meaningful life is created, not discovered, and anyone willing to embrace responsibility, reflection, and intentional action can cultivate it. Main points and actionable lessons. Meaning is actively created through intentional choices, responsibility, and alignment with values. True fulfillment comes from contribution, service, and focusing on what truly matters. Challenges, suffering, and uncertainty are opportunities for growth, not barriers to meaning. Regular reflection ensures your actions align with your purpose and values. Meaningful living is built through consistent, purpose-driven action, not external validation or comfort. What you can apply in your life. Take ownership of your daily choices and align them with your long-term purpose. Engage in acts of service and contribution, however small, to deepen your sense of meaning. Embrace challenges as opportunities to grow, learn, and strengthen your character. Schedule regular reflection to assess whether your life is moving in the direction you truly value. Focus on building habits and actions that reflect your authentic self, rather than chasing external approval. Reflective questions. Am I living intentionally, or am I letting circumstances and distractions dictate my life? Where in my life can I take more responsibility and contribute meaningfully to others? What challenges or discomforts am I avoiding that could lead to growth and purpose? How can I structure my daily actions to consistently reflect my values and long-term goals? What small step can I take today to move toward a life that feels truly meaningful? If you're ready to take control of your life, discover your true purpose, and turn everyday challenges into opportunity for meaning, don't just listen. Apply these lessons today and start building a life that truly matters. And if you found value in this summary, hit like, subscribe, and stay tuned for more life-changing insight from Visual Books.